pursuant to Article 3 of the Constitution, I, as well as every citizen of Kenya and state of public officers, have the obligation to respect, uphold, and defend the Constitution in performing any of my functions. The national values and principles of governance contained in Article 10 of the Constitution bind all state organs, public officers, and all persons, including myself as the Deputy President, wherever we make or implement public policy decisions. In relation to this matter, these national values and principles include the rule of law, democracy, and participation of the people, human dignity, equity, social justice, inclusiveness, equality, human rights, non-discrimination, and protection of the marginalized. Adherence to these principles became extremely important when we, as state officers, are contemplating legal evacuation of citizens with a duty to avoid inhuman forced evictions that would be contrary to our Constitution and international law. While campaigning with the President, and subsequently when I was sworn in as Deputy President, you can remember, I promised as a key pillar to the Kenya Kwanza government that there will be no forced and unlawful evictions, and that all evictions shall be human and entail legal compensation. You remember my inauguration speech. I said never again shall this administration carry out inhuman evictions in a brutal manner as was done in the previous administration. I and my office, the Deputy President, have undertaken extensive engagement with all parties in regard to the cabinet decision on eviction, which I fully support, including the Nairobi River, which is an entity under the ODP and County Government of Nairobi. Adherence to these principles become extremely important when we as state officers are contemplating legal evacuation of citizens with a duty to avoid inhuman forced evictions that would be contrary to our Constitution and international law. Guideline number 6 of the United Nations General Assembly, guidelines for the implementation of the rights to adequate housing, prohibits forced evictions, and the state should ensure that any eviction under domestic law are fully compliant with international law. The guidelines further require meaningful engagement with communities to ensure that the rights of residents are implemented cooperatively without the need for eviction procedures or police enforcement. I have supported the implementation of cabinet directives on the eviction, safe for the fact that on being informed that each person residing at the Nairobi River was being evicted and paid only 10,000 shillings, which I and many other Kenyans felt inadequate compensation for eviction. I insisted that the government should abide by constitutional dictates and international norms while implementing any cabinet decision, including eviction, and maintain the dignity of citizens of Kenya facing evictions. My statements did not and cannot be construed to undermining the President, because the President, like me, sought to defend the very Constitution. I hope I'm very clear. Am I clear? I cannot, I will not oversee, supervise forced, brutal eviction against the people of Kenya. That I will not, and I can't. President William Ruto and I on the campaign trail gave a solemn undertaking to the people of Kenya that under our administration, that will never happen. So when I was asked to oversee brutal, inhuman eviction against innocent people without notice, without compensation, without due regard to what the Constitution says, I found it very, very difficult, and I rescued myself and allowed the CS for Interior, the Head of Public Service, the PS for Internal Security to proceed. If that is the reason why Gachagua should be impeached as Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya and sent home for refusing to undermine the Constitution, for saying no to brutal and inhuman eviction of poor Kenyans, let it be. Undermining devolution by allegedly holding a meeting in Nairobi. Good people. I'm sure you are as embarrassed as I am. That a deputy president holding a public meeting to talk to the people of Kenya is undermining devolution. To start with, Deputy President Gachagua, in the duties spelled out by the President under Executive Order number 1 of 2023, he has the duties to coordinate intergovernmental relations. I work with the governors. This is the home of devolution. I hold meetings with the governors every day. I chair IBEC. I cannot be accused. And I need evidence tabled that I undermined devolution. The motion alleges that on 29 September 2024, I unlawfully interfered with the running of the Nairobi City Council government by holding a public rally where I allegedly incited citizens against law directives of the county government on planning and relocation of markets. This is my response. It is not true that I incited citizens against the law directives of the county government as alleged. I wish to clarify and point out that when I held the public rally, I merely requested the governor of Nairobi County to speak and listen to grievances which were being raised by the market traders. Videos will be produced tomorrow in the National Assembly. I, regarding Gachagua, asking Governor Sakaja to take time to listen to the people and listen to their grievances. The traders had sought me out to intervene and request the governor on their behalf to dialogue with them and seek a solution to their grievances with regard to the relocation of markets. Had the governor listened to these traders, they would have had no business coming looking for me. All I was saying is listen to the people. Before you relocate them, have public participation. Most of those traders have lived in Wakulima market for 40 years. They wanted to discuss with the governor what happens to us, what happens to our customers, what happens to the distances that we cover, what about the extra cost of going to the new relocation. And I think the traders were right. Requesting a meeting with an elected leader is their right. And when they requested me to go and meet them, because they were desperate and they needed somebody to hear to them, I did go and speak to them. Again, this motion alleges that on 20 September 2024, I unlawfully interfered with the running of the Nairobi City Council by inciting citizens against law directives of the county government. The leadership of Nairobi business traders approached me sometime in March 2024 at my official residence to discuss multiple issues affecting business and requested engagement in the resolution and intervention on these issues adverse to business. Consequent to this meeting, I directed that short, medium and long-term strategies be undertaken, coordinated by the Office of the Deputy President, to address the issues raised that are cross-cutting with the agencies including KRA, Kenya Post Authority, Counterfeit Authority, Kenya Bureau of Standards, the National Police Service, Kenya Corporate Board, given that devolution is under the Office of the Deputy President. I was just doing my work. On 11th April 2024, the Small Traders and Government Agencies Technical Committee, coordinated by my office, held a meeting to discuss issues raised by the small traders, including Uhuru Market, attended by ODP staff in a supportive role in keeping with the draft framework of cooperation and engagement between government, Nairobi City County, and the Nairobi business traders. Subsequent to that meeting, a meeting on 24th April 2024 between Nairobi City Council and the Nairobi small traders and numerous others, the ODP on 22nd July 2024 invited His Excellency Johnson Sakaja, among other state officers, to a meeting at ODP. Officers scheduled for 22nd July 2024 to review the draft framework of the cooperation and engagement between the small traders and the government of Kenya. On 3rd September 2024, the ODP wrote to Governor Johnson Sakaja and no other stakeholders submitting a final combined draft of the framework for review and feedback. After all the engagement between all the parties and the draft framework, Governor Sakaja decided to arbitrarily proceed with the relocation of Muthurwa Market. That gave rise to the cry by the people. Meetings had been held, a framework had been agreed on. And as an elected leader, as Deputy President, I think going to listen to people who are in anguish, who are crying, is responsible leadership. The government that President William Ruto and I lead is a listening government. And going to listen to people cannot be an impeachable crime. I would like to know how members of parliament would want to send me home for going to listen to people who are crying that they need to be listened to. I would like to understand. Undermining devolution by allegedly holding meetings to fight alcohol. I think tomorrow will be the greatest circus. Or do I call it the theater of the absurd? That Deputy President Gachagua, undertaking duties assigned to him by the President to fight illicit brews and drugs across the country, should be impeached because by doing